And this topic divided quite efficiently the Twitter into two groups. But also you have the Social Democrats. They are community in this graph. They are red, and Hanif Bali is blue. So in that sense, it would be fine. But as the conversation continues, we actually start seeing that it's becoming more and more complicated. So if we talk about this in terms of AI and data and power, if you were looking at this in real time and had a strategy based on what's actually being said, then you probably would be better at analyzing what's actually going well and what topics to talk about, and also what topics you try to get out there that are only attracting the people that already are your followers. And when this graph continues to grow, you're going to see that the blue field, and the reason why they are blue is actually only because they are that's the color of retweets. So as we see that the right-hand side with Moderaterna, but mainly Sverigedemokraterna and Alternativ för Sverige, those are so much better at retweeting each other's tweets. So after a while, you start seeing that part of Twitter universe during the election was so much bigger than the rest of the whole Twitter. And also, what's interesting is that this is the whole Twitter. That's not just the topics about the general election. This is whole Twitter during the last month. And it's actually in real time. So whenever you tweet something, you're actually going to arrive here on this graph. So what does this mean? We can explore this a little bit. So if you see here that the first graph that was quite big for Socialdemokraterna, it's actually not as big as it anymore. So it's kind of moving away from the discussion. And you have in the middle here you have the news outlets. And here you have Alternativ för Sverige, which is a subgroup of Socialdemokraterna, no, Sverigedemokraterna. Here you have Katarina Janouch, and here you have Hanif Bali. And what's interesting about this is that this is I'm not feeding it with any information at all, except for who's tweeting or who's replying who. So I don't make any analysis on any of the content that they write. I'm not doing anything else. I'm just displaying the data. So if you look at data from this perspective and see if I'm going to launch a product, if I'm going to launch a new strategy, if I'm going to do anything in society, if I'm not looking at the data while doing that, and my competitors are looking at the data, then you're kind of not going to be as efficient as your competitors. So when talking about policy and talking about politics and organizations and products and strategy, if you're not involving data in your business process, if you're not having the intuition of actually what's going on, not just the sales figures, because those are too much aggregated, you don't get any feeling for what's being said. So I'm going to do one thing more, but that is even more experimental, because now I'm going to try to show you also a little bit of what's being said and what they're talking about. And so I can, whoa. Now I'm going to search for something, and that's going to introduce a new color. And it's quite hard to see on the screen, so maybe I'm introducing a new color, which is red, and you're going to see that the whole graph is now going to change color in some parts of it. So if you see here, which is Alternativ för Sverige, they're sending out tweets about valfusk. And it's picked up by pretty much the whole area where it was previously blue. and now they are talking about valfusk. But that discussion is not any longer being broadcasted over to kind of the rest of Twitter, which means that this is an area, this is a topic where it's discussed a lot in a part of Twitter that most people don't see. So, which means that they're building up some sort of structure and some sort of power based on something they understand works. So if you have this type of analytics tools when looking at your strategy and messages, and see what sticks and what's not sticking, then eventually you're going to find ways to reach to the place where you're actually headed. So if we summarize this, and talk about AI again, I think that we first have to understand data. Because in Europe we don't have this type of data in any company and organization today. We might have it, but we're not utilizing it in the same way as the rest of the world is doing it. And we have GDPR, which makes it even more problematic to do it. So we have to start with the data, and then work from the data, and then try to get intuitions from it, and then apply AI on top of that. Because if we try to get AI before we have data, we're just going to be seeing irrelevant patterns that are not maybe... Now, do you see this? It's spreading. So, data is power, and we have to get strategies on how to get organizations here in Sweden and Europe to gather data before we can move to AI. So thank you.